I want to take a moment to congratulate Trae Young on arriving on the scene as a big-time stud with his miniature self. That's a bad brother. Nate McMillan, one of the great coaches in the game today. He's got a contract extension coming, y'all. He's going to be the coach for the Atlanta Hawks for a long time, and he deserves it. But why am I bringing that up? Because we here. That's why we here. New York's in the building. It's the ATL. Your boy is in town. The ATL. New York is invading. It's Molly and Mac. Oh, they wanted to stay in New York because Max is a traitor and Molly's all about UConn. But your boy, Stephen A, is representing New York City. New York, stand up. New York, stand up. Let's go.
Game 3, Lakers and Suns.
You got to come out from the gate and step on our necks and play our style of basketball.
And Davis throws it down.
No one is matching the aggression of not only LeBron James, but the Lakers.
And the Lakers have a 2-1 lead and looking every bit like the world champions.
You know this show is going to be wild. Welcome into First Take. Thank you for being with us on this Feel Good Friday. He is Max Kellerman. I'm Molly Karam Rose, and I would be remiss if I did not mention, oh, there he is, Stephen A. Let me just say this quickly on a serious note. We're kicking off Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to all those that sacrificed their lives, of course, for us and their families and all the servicemen and women. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, gentlemen, we ready to talk some playoffs? Do you have anything else you need to add from Hotlanta?
Oh, don't start. Here comes the Knicks stuff.
What's up, y'all? What's up? It's Friday. Y'all in New York City. You're supposed to be there representing, but unfortunately, Molly, Mrs. Connecticut, the Queen of Connecticut, and Max Kellerman, the traitor extraordinaire. That dude right there who should be barred from city limits. Okay, what's going on, y'all? Somebody had to be in the ATL representing New York. Somebody had to be here.
Are you done?
Look at them.
The first round. Are you done? Okay.
Right. Notice
let's talk about somebody who might actually win the chip. The Lakers made it look easy with a hobbled Chris Paul and a disgruntled Devin Booker taking a 2-1 lead back at Staples in front of Laker Nation for the first time in a playoff setting since when? April of 2013. AD dropping 34. LeBron, talk to me.
It's always special to play in front of the Laker faithful. We hope our numbers continue to rise as the series goes on. We can get more and more fans in the building, but it's a beautiful thing. Hasn't been a playoff game for the Lakers in Staples Center since 2013, so it's a special night, and we just try to reward our fans with their loyalty that they have for us, and just try to play the game the right way.
LeBron icy. I was trying to figure out what that second chain is. I couldn't tell. Stephen A., did LeBron and AD prove that they are the best duo in the NBA?
No, they didn't. Because they're going up against a depleted Phoenix Suns team that clearly is not the same without their leader, their floor general, the point guard extraordinaire that is CP3. His name is Chris Paul. That's number one. And number two, they haven't gone up against the Brooklyn Nets yet. So I guess if you want to go by default and look at their past history and say that they've proven that, fine, so be it. But this year, talking strictly about this season and what they've got to go up against, I reserve the right to wait until they go up against Lethal Weapon 3 in Brooklyn. And oh, by the way, you know what? I mean, we don't know who they're going to face as the Western Conference continues forward. Utah is no joke. I'm paying attention to that. I'm watching Denver with their victory over Portland last night. I'm looking at a few things right now. Anthony Davis and LeBron James are elite. They are all world. We get that when 100% healthy. But I've been questioning their health for quite a while now, their durability, for obvious reasons, and I'm still questioning that right now. So I'm looking at it from that perspective, and I'm saying I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach because Phoenix is not the same Phoenix team they were in Game 1, not since Chris Paul got injured. And I feel sorry for Phoenix. I really, really do, because I like that team.
One question, I just need a quick answer. Before Chris Paul got injured, who were you picking to win the Lakers-Suns series?
Lakers in 7.
Yeah, right. I'm sure that was because of Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder. LeBron James and Anthony Davis are the best combination in basketball. It's the best 1-2 punch in basketball. It's the best 1-2 punch since a prime Shaq and Kobe. The only contender between then and now is KD and Steph in Golden State. We're talking about the all-time topmost echelon 1-2 punches, LeBron and AD. And while your injury point is a valid one, even just last night, AD hyperextends, what did he hurt his knee? What happened? LeBron was so passive early in the game. I thought maybe his ankle's bothering him. I don't know. He got much more aggressive in the second half. But even with those concerns, Stephen A., you and I were both on the same page before the playoffs started as it relates to the Clippers and the Lakers, right? Hey, if the Clippers are really ducking the Lakers because they hope that the Lakers get a little more worn down and the injuries get exacerbated, and that gives the Clippers an advantage later in the playoffs, is that the best idea? Or is the best idea to catch the Lakers cold before they get ahead of steam? And we both agreed, catch the Lakers cold, because once they get going, it's a wrap. Utah and Denver aren't beating this Lakers squad with LeBron and AD. Not only are they great offensive players, like all-time greats, they're great defensive players, as Kendrick Perkins pointed out on this show the other day. No, the best 1-2 punch in basketball is LeBron and AD.
Well, let me say this to be clear. We shouldn't even be talking about LeBron and AD as a dynamic duo against this Phoenix Suns team because their only formidable frontline player is playing in his first playoff series ever in DeAndre Ayton, who already, again, had 22 and 11 last night. And that's about what he's averaging throughout this series. But this is his first playoff series. We know that Phoenix is significantly undersized. We look at the girth and the mass of the Los Angeles Lakers with Andre Drummond along with AD and LeBron James and a Montrezl Harrell. And we said, excuse me, if you're the Lakers, you're going to big boy them all series long because you certainly don't want to run up and down the court with those young thoroughbreds, assuming that CP3 had been healthy at the time, obviously. You don't want to get into no kind of up and down running game with the Phoenix Suns. That's not how the Lakers are going to win this series. They're going to win this series by playing big boy rules, by putting girth and mass on the court, by forcing them to turn into the perimeter team that they are because you just got too much size and girth against them in the interior, and you're going to slow the tempo down and you're going to big boy them by crashing the boards, beating them up and things of that nature. So if you know that going into the series against Phoenix, then this isn't the testing ground to validate LeBron James and AD as the dynamic duo. We can go on reputation. They are the reigning defending champions. We know that it is a dynamic duo. They top 2 or 3 in the world, if not number 1. But in the same breath, against the Phoenix Suns ain't the testing grounds to look at. Let's see what they do against Utah. Let's see what they do against Brooklyn. Let's see what they do against guys like that, and then come talk to me.
Well, okay, look. DeAndre Ayton first. He's the number 1 overall draft pick, and he's good. He was already pretty good, and we can see from these playoffs he's getting real good. Like, I hear what you're saying about the matchups, but DeAndre Ayton is a real guy. That's no cupcake. That's number 1. Number 2, who's the competition for LeBron and AD as a dynamic duo? The competition is KD and James Harden. I know you said KD and Kyrie. No, that's not. KD and James Harden, and that is real competition. But I got to say, the reason, because LeBron and AD are better two-way players, that it really is a competition we're looking at is because they're coming off injury, LeBron and AD. So are KD and James Harden. Like, we got to see how it all holds up. We like the Nets, you and I, because then they also got Kyrie.
Me, I don't even count you. I don't even count you with the Nets. I don't care that you picked them to win the championship. It took you about 6 months. Even after James Harden arrived, you still said I needed to see their defense improve.
That's right.
I told you about it, and you waited 2 months.
It took me 2 or 3 weeks after Harden got there. It's the middle of the season.
Excuse me. You said no to them. You picked Philly at the beginning of the season. Then when Harden arrived, you stuck with Philly, and you said the excuse was you didn't give a damn what Harden brought to the table. Their defense was so horrid that there was no way.
And it got better.
Then I
the defense got better.
They only need to improve by a little bit. They could be the 25th ranked defense, Max.
Well, congratulations, they did.
And you said no, and then you turned around and said, I changed my mind. What else is new?
That's right. I turned all the way around. See, look, the facts change, and I changed my mind. Just like that. The facts change, and you were right. The defense got okay. It's all they needed.
Okay, so let's just clarify for the people at home. So you're saying LeBron and AD are the best duo, Max Kellerman, correct?
Not best duo.
And Stephen A., you need to wait and see how these Brooklyn Nets play out?
Because I think with Harden, and yesterday I said Harden and KD, but I've always been about Kyrie and KD offensively. But when you take Harden into the equation, his ability to control tempo, run the show,
that's fair. That's fair. We've only seen them play together like 10 times, so that's totally fair. Let's move on because I want to zone in on the end of the game last night. Here's the deal. With less than a minute to go in regulation, and LA up double digits against Devin Booker. And as Schroeder began to elevate, you can see right there toward the basket, Booker delivered a two-handed shove to Schroeder, who hit the court hard, rolled out of bounds. Booker given a flagrant 2 and ejected from the game. Booker obviously frustrated. He scored just 19 on 6 of 19 shooting in the loss. Jay Crowder also ejected for continuing to talk trash with Schroeder. Max, I'll start with you here.
Yes, of course it was dirty, just like the Chris Paul play was dirty. Look, Devin Booker was frustrated last night. The Lakers' defense was working. They're a great defensive team. They're the best defensive team in basketball. And we knew once Chris Paul was compromised, what I say yesterday, Devin Booker can play on ball. He's a combo backcourt guy, but he's best when he can be an offensive weapon. And without Chris Paul creating stuff for him, he's got to do it all himself. The Lakers know that too, and they did a great job on him. He was frustrated, Stephen A. That was a dirty play, and while he wasn't way up in the air, it was also kind of a dangerous play. And Chris Paul's play on LeBron was the same. And I got to say, the way we look at someone like Belichick, and maybe that's taking it too far because he's really been scandalized, but some dudes are so competitive, we know they'll bend the rules if they think they can get away with it to help them. Chris Paul is one of those guys for me. I think it's having an effect on the team. He's ultra competitive. He gets away with what he can get away with, and Devin Booker tried it last night, and he got caught.
First of all, it was a dirty play, and he deserved to be ejected. I understand that. But let's pump the brakes. I've seen far worse. The game is so incredibly soft these days. I mean, please. Schroeder was barely an inch off the ground when he got shoved. I mean, again, you got to call the eject. You got to call a flagrant foul. It's got to be an ejection. I saw Devin Booker speaking before he got ejected, and you could just see their level of frustration because their whole thing is that, man, if CP3 were healthy, we could take these guys. We could take these guys. They know we compromised. They talking smack. They're trying to big boy us. They're getting physical. And by the way, it is difficult, and I feel sorry for Monty Williams to a degree. I've got several plays that I've looked at. It is difficult to coach against LeBron James because LeBron James gets calls that other people don't get. LeBron James gets a lot of favorable treatment, even though there are times where there's physicality that's exerted against him that doesn't get called enough in his favor. I'll give him that as well. But there are times where, you know what, you see plays that are called against another team. It could be traveling. It could be anything. They get called against another team that never get called against LeBron James. And that's very, very frustrating for an opposing coach. And it's frustrating for other players. And when you combine that with CP3 not being healthy, it is a challenge for Phoenix. You can see it written all over Devin Booker's face last night because obviously he's got more responsibility when Devin Booker isn't out, when CP3 isn't out there, even though Cameron Payne has been doing a really, really good job. I've been really impressed with that kid. He has surprised me. But you can see their frustration, and he acted out, no doubt. It was a dirty play. But let's not act like, oh, my God, it was one of the worst things we've seen. This league has gotten so soft. It's we've seen far, far worse than what Devin Booker did last night. Yeah. Far worse.
Yeah, it was dirty.
All right. We'll leave it there. Guys, another story I want to get to here. The Bucks looking like men amongst boys, owning the Heat in Dade County, a 29-point win. Pat Riley, not a happy camper, visibly annoyed courtside. Milwaukee taking a 3-0 lead thanks to Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis. Giannis, he's focused, man.
No, we're gonna stay focused. The job's not done here. We got one more to go. Obviously, in the game 4, Miami's going to come out even tougher. They're going to play better.
We got to get one before we can get anything else. We control what we can control, and that's how we play. That's how we prepare, and how we compete. We're not too worried about what history says and all of that good stuff. But we got our work cut out for us.
So history says the Heat, they don't got a chance. Teams up 3-0 in a best-of-7 series have never lost 140-0 over 60% of the time. The team down 3-0 gets swept. On that note,
Swept.
Yeah. What did I say?
Sweet.
Whatever. I hate you. Can we come on camera now? Thanks. Hi, Big Perk. Max is just schooling me over here with his Ivy League education.
It doesn't take an Ivy League education.
This guy.
I would hope.
No one else is amused. Perk's mad at you. Yeah.
Molly, I just cannot believe Stephen A. this morning. I really can't. I've been sitting up here watching this, and I just can't believe the words that he uttered out of his mouth just now about that foul that Devin Booker did on Dennis Schroeder. Did you see in the way that Dennis Schroeder landed? He could have tore his ACL or something. That was a dirty play.
Stop it.
This man is off balance. He could have twisted his leg and tore something. And then you said that LeBron James get calls, and you can understand their frustration. I recall a play in the first quarter where CP3 tried to flop on Anthony Davis, was running down the court, and Scott Foster having to be running on the side of him, and CP3 literally took his hand and chopped Scott Foster's arm down and got away with it. Anybody else would have got
I saw that.
CP3 gets 5 steps to the basket.
I saw that. No, well, first of all, I don't know why you can't believe it. First of all, I've seen you breathe on people harder than Schroeder fell last night. So let's stop that, okay? Number 2, you are right about the CP3 slapping of Scott Foster. I did see that. You're absolutely right about that. And the other thing about it is this. Here's the deal. We can say what we want to say because I'm not denying that you're right about LeBron James in some aspects, but I'm not wrong about what I said either. There's a lot of things that he doesn't get, and then there are a lot of things he does get in his favor. And all I was really trying to say about Phoenix last night, you could see the Lakers big boy in Phoenix and talking smack to them. Phoenix got frustrated. Devin Booker got frustrated. You could tell that they're a team that be like, listen, look at how we played in game 1. Look at how we played in game 2, even with CP3 down. Man, if we had him healthy, boy, could we take these dudes. You can see the frustration.
Listen, Peachtree Street, you don't need to defend yourself right now. Let's stay focused on the subject here. Stephen A., do the Bucks have...
Excuse me?
I said Peachtree Street.
Peachtree?
Yeah.
I'm on Peachtree Street.
You're in Atlanta. You've never heard of it?
Yeah. I've heard of Peachtree Street. I just don't think that's where... I'm on Pleasantdale right now, but I got it.
Oh, my gosh. It's a joke. Could we just go, please? God, you guys are disasters today. Stephen A., do the Bucks have a big 3?
Yes, they do. It's time we stand up and look at Middleton. He's coming, y'all. He's coming. Now, let's stop the presses for 1 second here. Let's not think about the past. Let me do a Mark McGuire here. I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm not here to talk about the past. I'll stay right here. Middleton, if he continues to play the way that he has been playing, Brooklyn's got a problem. The brother is making shots, and he's making shots in clutch moments as well, as we saw in game 1. Now, obviously, they blew him out of game 2 and annihilated them in game 2. And then game 3, we saw what we saw last night. This is a sweep. Bring out the brooms. Remember Galifianakis in the movie The Campaign with Will Ferrell, which was absolutely hysterical, and I love that movie. He said, I'm bringing my broom because it's a mess. And that's what's going on in South Beach. There will not be a game 5. It is over. It's a sweep that's coming their way. And it ain't just because of Giannis. It's because of Jrue Holiday. It's because of Middleton. It's because of the fact that the 3 of them play on both ends of the floor. And if you've got that going on, okay, remember, the Greek Freak can do what you need him to do for the first 40 to 43 minutes of a game. But when it's time to close, you need dudes that can make shots from the perimeter, and you need dudes who can defend. And right now, when you look at Middleton and you look at Jrue Holiday, they could potentially have something to say about it. I like what I'm seeing from them right now. I can't ignore it.
And guys like Bryn Forbes can't miss, by the way. Budenholzer deserves some credit so far for the way they're playing
Forbes,
in this
you're right,
series.
Max. Forbes, you're right about Forbes.
Yep. Yeah. Now, this is not really directed at you, Stephen A., because you weren't here this day. This is directed at Molly, Perk. I don't remember if you were on, Chris Canty and others who tried to sit here with a straight face and tell me that I was crazy for saying LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love was a big 3 because they didn't consider Kevin Love, who's a 5-time All-Star, All-Star.
That is not what you said.
2 times. Yes, it is. 2 times.
No, you didn't.
You said have your. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The argument was that it wasn't that we didn't say they was a big three. You called them a super team.
Right, because they had a big three, and then you started arguing with me.
Yeah, he's right.
And then you started arguing with me about it wasn't because of Kevin Love. Now, Kevin Love was a altogether 5-time All-Star, max contract player, traded for a number 1 pick, made 2 All-Star teams with the Cavs, and they went to 4 finals and won a championship. I was told he doesn't qualify as a member of a big three. But 2-time All-Star Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, who once made an All-Star team in 2013, that qualifies as a big three. It's a big one with 2 other dudes who are sometimes, once in a while, All-Stars. A big three, look in Brooklyn. Perennial All-Stars. All 3 of them Hall of Famers. 2 MVPs on the team. That is not what Milwaukee has. Milwaukee has a big one with 2 dudes who are really good, not quite great, but good players, and a real good supporting cast. That is not a big three, y'all.
Well, Max, first of all, the argument that we had before I interrupted you when I was on the show with Chris Canny and Molly was that you called the Cavs big three a super team. And I said that they weren't a super team. Just because you have a big three don't make it a super team, okay? That's the first thing. Second of all, the Milwaukee Bucks do have a big three. And look, you're a numbers guy. Check out the stats. Giannis is averaging 24 and 16 right now. Chris Middleton is averaging 22 points and shooting 43% from the three. Drew Holiday is averaging 16 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds. Is that not the making of a big three? Look at that stat line. Okay, so you have guys that are capable of putting up those.
Takes 2 of them.
Oh my God, Max. What else do you need? I was on the team with a big three, right? With a Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. They didn't all.
Now that's a big three.
They averaged 22.
I'm not talking about the averages.
21. I'm saying, like, when you talk about a big three, Max, you talk about the now and what their production is on the floor. I'm looking at this Milwaukee Bucks team, and they have 3 guys on the floor that are capable of carrying this organization to the finals. They have 3
Drew Holiday, an
guys.
All-Star. Don't you think you have to at least make an All-Star? You have to be an All-Star to be a member of a big three? I'm not saying the Hall of Fame just make be an All-Star.
Hey, Max,
Drew Holiday was the All-Star.
Hold on, KP. Max, could you stop? Because, see, I'm glad that KP brought that up because that's what you do all the time. See, when you take a multitude of positions or you sit up there and say, well, y'all didn't understand what I said, so let me explain. Then you can turn around weeks later and say, well, I said something that and then somebody else comes and say, no, that's not exactly what you said. We just started off the segment. What did I say? I ain't here to talk about the past. I'm talking about how they're looking. The way that they're looking. Remember the question mark.
Saying.
No, exactly. No. That's what we're saying now. So in other words, if you're responding to what we're saying, pay attention to what we're saying. We ain't talking about the past. The way Drew Holiday and Middleton are looking right now, I'm saying that could potentially be a big-time problem for the Brooklyn Nets. Because what we were looking for Middleton, what we're getting last year.
I understand that, and Middleton can play at an all-star level, and I like Drew Holiday a lot. But everyone knows what we mean when we say a big three. It means perennial all-star caliber player. Drew Holiday's not one of the 5 or 6 best point guards in the league.
I got a question.
I love him, but he's not. Yeah.
Real quick. Does Philadelphia have a big three?
Does who?
Yes or no? Philly.
No.
But did you pick Philly at the beginning of the season?
I did. I don't think you need a big three to get picked.
Thank you.
Yeah,
but we're telling you Milwaukee got a big three, and you saying you don't think they need a big three.
The question is not can Milwaukee win, it's do they have a big three?
Yeah,
and we said yes.
Max,
and I say no. That's what we're arguing about.
I'm just trying
Last
to
word,
figure
Kendrick.
out right now in the moment, the Milwaukee Bucks are up on the current Eastern Conference champions, 3-0. And Drew Holiday, Giannis, and Chris Middleton are putting up big three type numbers. Why are they not a big three right now?
So they're playing like a big three right now.
Okay.
For 3 games of the series, they're playing like a big three. That's your argument?
We got to go. Those 3 account for 55% of New York, it's buzzing about their basketball teams as not only are both in the playoffs, but both have home court in the first round, which hasn't happened since 2013. Speaking of 2013.
Had home court. The Knicks had home court.
Whatever,
in the
Max,
first round.
you're killing me today. That's the last time the Knicks made the playoffs, won a playoff game, and won a playoff series. This year's Knicks have accomplished the first two on that list. And the Nets tonight can take a commanding 3-0 series lead against the Celtics if they were to win. They are 8-point favorites despite playing at Boston. Let's focus on these two New York squads. Max Kellerman, what would be a bigger failure? The Knicks losing in the first round or the Nets losing in the finals?
Obviously, the Knicks losing in the first round. I'm not trying to hear, just like Stephen A. said, I'm not talking about what was. I'm talking about right now. You reset expectations. I'm not trying to hear, well, the expectations in the beginning of the season, those have been totally reset. The Knicks come in as a higher seed than Atlanta. They had home court. It's going to be a tough series. If they lose it, they lost in the first round to a lower seed, no matter how you slice it. If the Nets win in the lose in the finals, the big three that's played 10 games together, including the regular season and postseason so far, with KD coming off a catastrophic injury, with Harden hurt most of the year, joined the team once the season began, with Kyrie missing all those games, no time to develop rhythm or chemistry. If they get all the way to the finals and lose to, say, the defending champion Lakers, you know what they're going to have to do? Even to get to the finals, they're going to have to go through Milwaukee, right? Or is it going to be the Sixers? Or is it going to be some other combination of good Eastern Conference teams? Milwaukee, we just said, everyone's saying, hey, they might go all the way this year. Look, by the way, look what Budenholzer's done with the whole thing, and Giannis doesn't have to initiate the offense anymore. I was just told they have a big three in Milwaukee, plus guys like Bryn Forbes and guys like that. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers defense. Thibault emerges with Simmons and Danny Green and Embiid and all the shooting with Seth Curry and everyone else. You mean to tell me you get through all that, and then you get to the Lakers and lose in the finals, and that's a bigger disappointment than getting bumped by a lower seed in the first round? Get out of here.
You know, Max Kellerman, I usually would be tempted to say is Spot Kellerman at work again. But I'm not going to call you Spot Kellerman. Your new name is Vicky. You know who Vicky is, Max?
Vicky?
Who's that?
Remember Vicky, Max? iRobot with Will Smith, the computer.
Yes, I do
My
remember
logic is
iRobot.
undeniable.
I don't remember Vicky exactly.
That's right. No,
I don't know
she's
if I
the
like
robot.
being called Vicky.
It's the robot. It's the system. It says my logic is undeniable. My logic is undeniable.
Yes,
that's
true.
you, Max Kellerman, because that's how you feel.
Maybe I am
because
Vicky.
you're thinking about Philly. Because you're thinking about Philly. You're thinking about Milwaukee, and that's where you are with it. Clearly, you have no pulse for New York anymore. I don't even know why you're around. I don't even know why you tell people you have a residence in New York. Why don't you just leave town? You have no idea what you're talking about when you talk about what will happen.
Where are you
Understand
right
something
now?
here,
Where
man.
are you right
Let me
now?
go. I'm only in the ATL because the Knicks are here.
I
New
don't
York
presently
State,
have a
I'm here.
residence in Los Angeles.
here.
Do you, Molly?
I don't have one in Los Angeles
anybody-
either.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Excuse me.
All right,
Excuse me.
we here.
I'm just saying I
We
don't.
Here, okay?
That's all I'm saying.
We here, all right? Here's the deal, y'all. If you look at the New York Knicks, okay, I understand what your point is, Max, in all seriousness, when you talk about the first round. But what I'm saying to you is I get to lean on the expectations you had coming into the season. Nobody expected anything from the New York Knicks. And here they are winning 41 of 72 games, going 41 and 31, being a fourth seed. And by the way, you had identical records to the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat. And when you look at the Atlanta Hawks, led by Trae Young, with Bogdanovich, with Collins, with Hunter and these boys, these brothers can play. And so when you look at them, you like them a lot, and you recognize the fact that from a talent perspective, they actually have more talent than the New York Knicks. It's just that Thibodeau's exceptionally at coaching defense, and the New York Knicks are grinders, so you come playoff time, that could propel you to victory over a superior talented team. When you look at that, and you say, if you lose in the first round to the Atlanta Hawks, all right, we didn't like that, but damn, we had a good season. KD comes to Brooklyn. Kyrie starts off the season and don't want to talk to anybody and bringing up everything from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to stuff that's going on in the inner city communities. And we applaud his philanthropy, his political conscience, his political conscience, and all of this stuff. We applaud all of that. But when you look at that combined with Harden and how he came from Houston to Brooklyn and you take into account their resume, Kyrie, champion, KD, two-time champion, two-time NBA Finals MVP, James Harden, 3-4-time scoring champion, okay? Former league MVP. The combination of the three, the most prolific offense, and you said it yourself, when all is said and done, these brothers will be the greatest offense we've ever seen. To come up short in New York City with everybody in the streets raving about the New York Knicks, it'll be a bigger failure for the Nets not to win the chip than for the New York Knicks to lose in the first round.
No, because the Nets will have taken control of New York by then if they make it all the way to the finals. And the town can flip, at least
Brooklyn.
Temporarily.
Just Brooklyn.
At least temporarily. I remember in '86, the Mets took the city from the Yankees. It wasn't permanent, but it was for a year or two, maybe 3 years. The Mets had the New York more than the Yankees did. I remember this. The town can flip at least temporarily. What? Yeah.
How long did the Mets have New York?
Between 86 and 88, I would say it was a Mets town.
You need to be tested. That is not true.
It is.
When they made their run and they won the World Series the Mets
check
had
the
New
attendance
York for 2 or 3.
Check the attendance. Check the TV ratings.
And my godson Nicholas, is that what you did? A different kind of orange? They must
Let's
be
not
special.
go down
They
this
have
rabbit
never
hole.
had New York like that.
They did.
Ever.
By the way, it pains me. I hate the Mets. I'm a huge Yankees fan. It pains me, but it's true. The point is this about the Brooklyn Nets. If they were to fail against the Lakers, it would be a problem for KD. You lost to LeBron when you're crewed up. It would be a problem for Harden. James, you can't. It would be a problem for the players, and it would be an enormous celebration of LeBron's greatness, right? He did it again, just like he beat the Warriors. But the Nets would be in good shape. They just went to the finals. Their future looks great. The city will have been buzzing about the Nets for a month after the Knicks were done playing, Stephen A. That's the bottom line.
Let me tell you something. Max Kellerman. Can't have it that way, bro. Think about how prolific they are. Who are the Brooklyn Nets? I mean, we know about Joe Harris. We know about Blake Griffin. We know about Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni. But who are the Brooklyn Nets? You know it's about those 3 individuals. And if they lose, Max, they get all the attention. All of it. Absolutely all of it. Kyrie left Cleveland because he didn't want to be sunned by LeBron James. He departed from Cleveland because he wanted his own squad.
It wouldn't be good for Kyrie or KD or Harden.
Because he didn't want to be no little brother to LeBron. That's well documented. KD,
all that's going to happen, Stephen A.
He believes he's the best in the world. I mean, you know how
all
bad
we
it
would
would
say
be.
is. All we would say is these dudes barely played together, still almost won the chip, and then next year we'd expect them to win the chip.
That would be fair. But that's not what people would say. That's not what people would say.
It's the first time they have 3 players averaging over 24 points per game in a single season.
That's the alternative title to this show.
That's the
Agree to
Nets.
disagree.
Oh, okay. There we go. Still to come on First Take, our Mike Duraco, who covers the Jags, described the scene like this. He looked like a tight end. Yes, you heard that right. Tebow got extra coaching after blocking drills and at times looked a little hesitant or a half step behind in others. But he caught every pass thrown his way, including 2 touchdowns, one from Trevor Lawrence and one from Gardner Minshew. On that note, we bring in my guy, Ryan Clark. RC, where are you? We need to see this man on camera. No, don't say anything yet. Listen, RC, last time I brought this up, you were very salty. You were very dismissive of this subject. Did you hear what I just said? Our report says that he looks like a tight end, that the transition is seamless. He is catching touchdowns from people like Gardner Minshew, okay? So I will ask you this. Is this now a story, Ryan Clark?
Hell no, it ain't no story. Let me tell you why it's not a story. Here's why it's not a story, Molly.
Why?
If the way you have to bring it on is say he caught every pass, he's supposed to. Like, that's what tight ends do. They catch the football when they're thrown to them. That shouldn't have to matter. We shouldn't have to point out that he caught 2 touchdowns or that he was hesitant in blocking drills or that he got extra coaching. This is the story because of who it is, and we do TV. We are media. We are media staffers, and so we have to talk about it. But Tim Tebow is not a tight end. Tim Tebow is the friend of Urban Meyer, who is a very good person, who people truly love, who is from the Jacksonville area, that's going to sell some preseason tickets and some jerseys. Tim Tebow's not going to play the tight end position. And then now we hear some of these speculations that Tim Tebow could be used in a Taysom Hill role. And this is a Diana Rossini report, and she's talked to other executives in the NFL. But they don't know that he's going to be used in a Taysom Hill role. They just can't believe for the life of them that he could ever be a viable option at tight end. That you're going to sit this dude over Myles Garrett and say, hey, protect Trevor Lawrence from Myles Garrett. Give Washington an opportunity to run inside the C gap because you can block Jadeveon Clowney. Those things aren't going to happen. So he must have to be a gadget guy, right? He's going to be Taysom Hill. When Tim Tebow was 22, he ran a 4.7. And yes, he's in better shape. Yes, he takes care of himself more, but he's not going to be faster than that. He's not going to create explosive plays for you. And if you put him in that position, you actually get less athletic at quarterback going from Trevor Lawrence to Tim Tebow. This is the story because it makes good TV, not because Tebow is going to play good football.
Even X? Oh, you want me to? Oh, well, of course it's a story, Ryan. Whether you like it or not. I know a lot of people don't because sports is supposed to be meritocratic, and he got an extra opportunity because he played because he's from there. It's his hometown, because it's his old college coach, because everyone loves Tim Tebow, right? All the fans love Tim Tebow. And so that bothers a lot of athletes, and I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm saying he has the opportunity. And what did we always used to say about Tim Tebow? I don't know if he's a quarterback. He's a football player. I don't know if he's a quarterback. And coaches can figure out what to do. When you say gadget guy, it means he's a square peg, doesn't fit into a round hole. But can he do something on the field? Of course he's not going to be the quarterback on plays instead of Trevor Lawrence. That's not what a Wildcat is anyway. Can you line him up somewhere on the field where he's also a threat to throw the ball? Yeah, I think you can. Like, at first when I heard about this, Ryan, at first when I heard this story, it's like, okay, they'll bring him in. I thought Molly had the best theory. Really, Urban Meyer wants him around the team as a hype man or as a coach or something. Good luck charm. But how are you going to sell that to Tebow? So you get him through the door with a with a tryout, basically. But the deeper we get into this, and he has a contract, now you're hearing good things about him, it seems to me like it's an actual story, because we're asking today, can he play in the NFL this year? There is a non-negligible chance the answer is yes. That's a story.
Ryan Clark, I want you to listen to me, and I want you to listen to me carefully, because I'm very serious with what I'm about to say, and it's not going to be pleasant to a lot of people, but I don't give a damn. I'm going to say what I believe to be true. It is a story, but I'm going to tell you why it's a story, because it's sad. Here's the reality of the situation. A little over a week ago, I got a text message. That text message was from Mr. Sean Hannity. You know why I got that text message, Ryan and Max? Leave Tim Tebow alone. That was his message. I got a text message from our old buddy Will Kane, who used to be on this show and did a great job on radio and was here for a few years and all of that stuff, and we got love for him. Will Kane was here, and now he's at Fox, and he was hosting a primetime show for a week. He wanted me to come on as a guest to talk Tim Tebow. You know why? Because as you know this, and you'll know it when I say this, Ryan Clark, there's a lot of people who know football. There's millions upon millions upon millions of people who don't. But they watch, and they watch for their own little reasons. And when it comes to Tim Tebow, do they remember that he completed 46.5% of his passes as a quarterback in 2011? No. They knew he could run with the football. They knew he got on one knee and prayed. They knew that about his religion, and he wore that on his sleeve unapologetically, and we don't knock him for that, okay? I personally got a lot of love for Tim Tebow. I'm rooting for him. I called him to let him know I'm rooting for him. But it doesn't negate the fact that he is the walking embodiment in this particular situation of white privilege. Just like Steve Nash, when he became the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, was the walking embodiment of white privilege. What does white privilege mean for everybody else out there that would say, Stephen A., why would you bring up that? Why would you bring up race? I'm pointing to the fact that the opportunity that has been accorded to them is not something that would happen for us as black people. There is not a guy that is black that really couldn't play the quarterback position, that has been removed from the game for years, who would be brought back to play a different position. That would not happen for black folks, period. There is not a black man that could never coach on any level, ever. And the first job he gets is as a professional basketball coach in the NBA, coaching a championship favorite, his first ever job. That does not happen for black people. I don't mean to bring that up to cast aspersions on Steve Nash. If I'm Steve Nash, I take that job. Steve Nash is a good brother. His agent for years is the great Bill Duffy, who happens to be black, and elite as an agent as there is. And Steve Nash is a phenomenal person. Tim Tebow is one of the best people I believe I've ever met. I love Tim Tebow, and I hope he succeeds, and I'm rooting for him. But it doesn't negate the story. And the story is that because he's a draw, because he's local, et cetera, yeah, that's justification. But the bottom line is,
Stephen A., real quick.
He's white.
Stephen
and his whiteness helps. And that's why he's in that position. That's part of it.
As it relates to Steve Nash, I disagree with you. I mean, your point is well taken. Warren Moon, it's the opposite of what you said for black people. Warren Moon was a quarterback who wound up in the Hall of Fame, who had to leave the NFL because they wouldn't let him play quarterback. It's just the opposite. Play another position. No, I'm a quarterback.
Tell me how you disagree with my Nash point.
The Nash point is this. Nash got his job there because of relationships, primarily with KD and Kyrie, it seems to me. And if Steve Nash were black and had the same relationships, I believe he'd still be head coach.
Stop right there. I'm not saying that, see, this is what, and I'm glad Ryan's here for this. When we say that, Max, we're not saying he got the job because he's white. That's not what I'm implying. What I'm saying is the relationship and the position that he's in, that's not something that happens for black people. It only happens for white people.
Well, it hasn't
he didn't get
happened.
The job because
whether
he's
or
white,
not it can happen, it has not happened.
People.
So those are the facts.
Yeah, but I think we're underestimating also the. Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, no, I'll let you go. But I think the big thing here is this. Obviously, whenever there's an African American who brings up white privilege, you get the eye rolls, there you go again. With Tim Tebow, it's definitely white privilege because I think he embodies a lot of what white America feels at times, right? The all-American, you can do it if you try. If with hard work, anything is possible in America, especially if you're that color. But I don't necessarily think it's just white privilege with him. I think it's fame. Right? Because I think it's the same way that Michael Jordan could do certain things, or hell, J. Cole could go play in Africa. I think it's that fame. What it is with Tim Tebow more than anything is that relationship. That relationship with that white coach who believes in Tim
100%.
Tebow, who also hired a man that was accused of racism at Iowa because he was his friend. This is more good old boy club. This is more nepotism, more familiarity.
We got a bump, and I'm sorry to cut off a sensitive subject. I think we're also underestimating the religious piece and how he galvanizes people because of the Christianity. Stephen A., best player under 22 you would build around?
Luka Doncic. Look at what he does. And at 6'7", with his ball handling skills, his passing ability, his shot making ability, his ability to perform in the clutch. I mean, he's got guys like Kawhi Leonard looking like they're hesitant to guard him. He's talking smack in Slovenia or whatever the hell it is. That's the dude I'm going with. He's a winner.
Max, did the Clippers make a mistake keeping Ty Lue instead of Doc Rivers?
No, I don't think so. And let's see what kind of adjustments Ty Lue makes in this series. Doc Rivers is a great coach. He's won a championship. But all reports out of L.A. were like he and the Clippers just didn't seem that interested in each other anymore. And Ty Lue is an excellent choice to replace him. I think it's way too early to say that was a mistake.
Stephen A., tell me this. Will the Clippers blow it up if they lose this series?
I think they will. I think they'll have no choice because of Kawhi, because I think Kawhi's going to skip town on them. And this is the man that said, I'm not coming to town unless you trade the farm to get me Paul George. And if you don't, then I'll go to the Lakers and join LeBron and AD. That's what he did to the Los Angeles Clippers. And now if they don't win, he might skip out on them. So in light of that reality, you either convince him to stay or you blow everything up and just move on.
All the way to Seattle, maybe. Let's see what happens.
Right. Let's get to the other LA squad. They're up 2-1 now, making easy work of the Suns, obviously with a banged-up CP3. AD dropping 34 again. Big Perk back here with us. Stephen A., I'll start with you. Do you think the Lakers are going to repeat?
Stephen A.
Me?
Lakers? Yeah.
You're asking me? No, they're not. I don't know if KD and LeBron are healthy enough. And I think that, let me be very, very clear. I think that KD, Kevin Durant, is the greatest offensive weapon in the game. I think that he is the one player that no team has an answer for at all. The Lakers don't have an answer for him. Utah doesn't have an answer for him. Milwaukee, Philly, the Clippers, Dallas, Denver. I don't give a damn who it is. He's the one dude there is absolutely, positively no answer for. Kyrie Irving is a showstopper. He's going to get his. James Harden's doing what he's doing, sure. But KD is that dude. You could possibly figure out the others in some capacity, somehow. But there's no figuring out KD. And that's why I believe that the Lakers are not repeating, because I believe no matter what LeBron and AD throws your way, I think KD is going to be standing there, waiting, and he going to give it to everybody. There's no answer for this brother. That's the only reason I feel this way.
Yeah, Perk.
Well, I disagree, and I think the Lakers are going to defend their titles. It's just like boxing, Max. Let me jump in your element, right? Styles make fights, okay? The way that styles make fights. And you look at the greatest to ever do it, in my opinion, and Floyd Mayweather, everyone kept saying every single time he jumped in the ring that, oh, this guy's going to whip him. Oh, I got this guy taking Floyd down. And especially like when he fought Canelo Alvarez, right? They were saying Canelo is bigger, he's stronger. But what did Floyd do? He used it to his advantage. He made Canelo weigh in the day of the fight. And what I'm saying is, when you look at the Lakers, they make you play their style of basketball. Now they're playing old school basketball where they're going to punish you in the inside. They're going to slow down the pace. They're going to make it a half-court game, and no one in the league is physical enough to compete with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and even Drummond when he's playing his best. And I love the way that Frank Vogel is using Marc Gasol. So when you look at the Lakers, they're the most stingiest team on the defensive side of things. You got Dennis Schroeder and Alex Caruso being pests at the guard position. You have Caldwell Pope, Wesley Matthews. Those guys are being feisty. They're into you. You have rim protection. You have a guy that could arguably win Defensive Player of the Year every single year in Anthony Davis. They make you play their style. And when you look at the way the Lakers adapt, and just think, last night, they scored 43 points at half, but the Suns only scored 40. The Suns scored 12 points in the second quarter. It's no other team in the NBA that's doing that on the defensive end. So when I look at it, AD, LeBron James, 58. The Lakers had 58 points in the paint. Anthony Davis and LeBron James had 38 of those points. They're just too strong, too dominant, and they're too good defensively.
Perk, you're wrong. Stephen A.'s right on this one. And you talk about Floyd, and people said this and that. Floyd was always the favorite, and his timing was very good. He knew when to play dudes. The timing may be right to play the Lakers, but that's not the reason that the Nets will win. The reason the Nets will win is also not just because of KD. If it's KD and Kyrie, they ain't winning. It's real. The simplest way I can put it is the Lakers got two of those dudes. The Nets got three. They got too much. But offensively, it's crazy because, as I keep pointing out, the Houston Rockets, when LeBron was waving the white flag, Before the series ever started, Stephen A. talking about he's giving concession speeches, looking at the Warriors, KD and Steph and Clay and Dre and Iggy. It's too much. We don't have enough, right? Don't believe you. You need more people. And he was like giving concession speeches. The Rockets almost beat him without Chris Paul. They played a Game 7 in Houston because they were playing D'Antoni style, which everyone says can't win, but in fact can do a lot more with a lot less. Now this Nets team, Perk, with D'Antoni on the bench, run by James Harden as the point guard, is basically that Rockets team, but with that Warriors level of talent. There's nothing you can do to stop them. How are you going to stop them?
See, and Max, you know what's crazy is that you really just made my point. You just said that with a dynamic duo and Chris Paul and James Harden, that they almost beat the Warriors, and they probably would have beat the Warriors if CP3 didn't get injured.
Maybe. Yep.
So, and then you brought up D'Antoni's style of play, and that the Warriors couldn't adjust to that style of play. Didn't you just say that?
No, well, not exactly, but you can interpret it that way. It's fair.
Okay, cool. So that's my point exactly. When I talk about the Lakers and their style of play, a dynamic duo, the best duo since Kobe and Shaq, the way that LeBron James and Anthony Davis are able to dominate, can take on a three-headed monster, and you just submitted and stamped my point by bringing up that Rocket situation.
Joe Harris is going to be wide open all series.
Got injured, we all know if Chris Paul wouldn't have got injured, the Rockets were going to win.
Stephen A., I'll give it to you. Stephen A., I'll give it to you. I think the Nets can score 40 points in a quarter against anyone. Stephen A., I'll give it to you. You were the one who said Blake can still play. You were absolutely right. He can still play. I don't even talk about Blake Griffin on that team. The Nets have too much.
Let me tell you this. First of all, KP, that was Max with Houston and CP3. I've always been of the mindset, just for your edification, in case you were never on when we discussed it, I've never, ever, ever believed that the Golden State Warriors were going to lose that series to Houston. I always said that Golden State was going to win it in 7. No matter what Houston did, Golden State would do a little bit more. They did as much as was required to win that series that CP3 got hurt over the Rockets, and I still believe to this day they would have won that series. As it pertains to Brooklyn, I will say this to you. Here's what it's going to come down to. As you know this, KP, the game slows. It becomes a bit more physical. That's true. But two things that can offset that. Number one is perimeter shooting, which Brooklyn has. And number two is getting to the free throw line. And let me tell you something. They're going to make their free throws. Is LeBron going to make his?
All right. The last 3 times the Lakers won the title, by the way, guys, they ran it back the next year in the 80s, 2000, 2002, and that 2009, 2010. So history is on their side. In a scrappy battle in the West, Denver took Game 3 last night with a 5-point win over Dame Dolla and the Blazers in Portland. The Trailblazers struggled from beyond the arc despite Dame leading all scores with 37. Max Kellerman, I'm looking at you here. What is the story of the night for you on this one?
It's Jokic, and you know, it's gotten to the point where people are talking about he shouldn't be the MVP because he's not an all-time great. Yes, he is. Jokic is playing at all-time great levels. He does it all the time. What was it last night? 36, 11, and 5 on 50% from the floor, better than 50% from 3 and perfect from the line. I mean, this dude is the most skilled, certainly combination of skills like passing, shooting, and he can also score down low ever. His passing is ridiculous. He's an all-time great passer and an all-time great player in his prime. He's going to win MVP, and he deserves it. And I think when we look at this series, without Jamal Murray, it's a shame he's not playing because who knows what Denver could do with Jamal Murray. The Aaron Gordon trade worked out great, and Jokic is making him a better player, and he's already very good. But I think it comes down to people believe that Damian Lillard is an all-time great in his prime and will make the Hall of Fame. And when it comes down to it, Dame will get past Jokic. I don't think so. I think when it comes down to it, Jokic is getting past Dame. He was the story of the game. He's the story of most games he plays in.
So you switching your pick? You picking Denver to win this series?
I'm not switching. I had Denver.
I thought you picked Portland. I picked Portland in 7. I thought you picked Portland in 7.
Denver in 7, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. That's not why I'm looking this way, Max. I'm not looking this way because I'm upset by anything you said. I'm looking this way because I'm depressed. I'm kind of hurt right now. You see, when I thought about that game last night, I wasn't thinking about Jokic. I was thinking about Austin Rivers.
It was good.
Austin Rivers, a really good guy, a good player who shouldn't have been sitting at home unemployed, waiting for his phone to ring before he had to accept a 10-day contract. Coming into the game last night in the fourth quarter, dropped 16 of his 21 points in the fourth quarter, 4 threes. Jokic said, Austin Rivers won the playoff game for us last night. Now, why would that depress me, Max Kellerman? Where the hell was Austin Rivers playing earlier this season? He was playing for the New York Knicks. He's playing for the New York Knicks. Austin Rivers could have been with the New York Knicks. Austin Rivers with the New York Knicks. They might be up 2-0 right now. Now, I understand that Austin Rivers had to go because contractually you got Derrick Rose up in there, so it facilitated Austin Rivers being pushed out the door. But when I think about that damn Alfred Payton and the way that he's been struggling, and how we got to take 32-year-old Derrick Rose, and we got to work him like a workhorse, and hope and pray that he saves the day. I think about how Austin Rivers could have been in the New York Knicks. That's what I was thinking about last night. When I watched Austin Rivers drill those threes, I said, he's supposed to be with us. He's supposed to be with us here in Atlanta right now, getting ready to reclaim home court advantage. Matter of fact, when I had to reclaim it, because if Austin Rivers was there somehow with Derrick Rose, they would have been up 2-0.
You need help. Someone get this man some help.
That's what I'm saying.
Is there a mental health professional in the Atlanta area? Get to Stephen A. Smith's studio right now. This man needs help.
Yeah, you're
the question was about the Nuggets and the Blazers. How do you turn this into the Knicks?
Because he was on the Knicks. He was on the Knicks this season. This season, not last year, not 2 years ago. He was there this season. He was right there. He was right there. He would have helped us be up 2-0.
Anything else in life?
He can't.
I mean,
He can't. The
people
man
are
needs
starving.
help.
There's a lot of things happening.
He needs help.
Oh my gosh. All right, and I sound like Kyrie
I love
now.
you, brother, but you need help.
Ahead on First Take, did the NBA come?
Watch this fan dumping popcorn on Westbrook's head.
New York fan appeared to spit at Trae Young.
During the Jazz-Grizzlies game, some fans made some racially insensitive and lewd comments toward Ja Morant's parents.
Blatantly honest, man, it is getting out of hand, especially for me.
Those are things that's not going to represent our league, represent our players, or represent these respective teams. We all know what the line is when you cross it.
This week, the Knicks released the following statement after a fan was seen spitting on Trae Young. We investigated the matter and determined that this patron, who is not a season ticket holder, did indeed spit on Trae Young, and for that reason, he is now banned from the Garden indefinitely. We apologize to Trae and the entire Atlanta Hawks organization for this fan's behavior. This was completely unacceptable and will not be tolerated in our venue. We have turned the information over to the appropriate authorities. Also, coming out last night was the Jazz banning 3 fans. The fans made vulgar and racist comments to Ja Morant's parents, the father of the Memphis Grizzlies star guard, telling ESPN. A statement from the Jazz cited one verbal altercation that occurred during Utah's 141-129 victory on Wednesday night in Game 2 of a first-round playoff series. Stephen A., I will start with you. Did the NBA come down hard enough on fan behavior?
I don't think so. I think they need to be a bit stiffer, a bit tougher, because I think that there is cause for concern. A dear friend of mine who's an executive in the NBA, been very, very well connected, has been a part of the NBA for the last 30 years or so, brought something to my attention that I had never thought about before, to be quite honest with you. I never put the pieces together, and I was really, really interested in coming on the show and sharing it with the both of you. Talked about the elements that exist that should heighten our level of awareness and concern as it pertains to the modern day athlete. And there's 2 things going on that can't be ignored. To a lesser degree would be the first one, gambling. If y'all recall, a little more than 18 months ago or so, that landmark decision by the Supreme Court basically lifting federal bans on sports betting. And in particular states, you couldn't gamble on sports. outside really the state of Nevada. You just wasn't something that you were allowed to do. And the federal courts, the Supreme Court actually struck down a federal ban on sports gambling that prohibited betting on sports in most states. And since that, they left it up to the states. Well, what has happened? Not all states like Connecticut and California, they haven't legalized gambling on sports or whatever, but legislation has been proposed in some of those states, according to what I've read. But New York allows it. New Jersey allows it. Maryland allows it. Michigan allows it. Pennsylvania allows it. Delaware allows it. Illinois and Indiana allow it. Stuff like that. And so when you consider the fact that you can go into an arena like Philadelphia, somebody told me, and they said they wanted to get Wi-Fi. And just to get Wi-Fi, you had to get like a Bally Sports app or something like that on your phone just to be able to get the app. Well, what that does is it makes gambling easier and more accessible to the customer out there. So you go to a game instead of a casino and you just bet a few $100, a few $1,000 or somebody or whatever, and then you see them messing up in the game, who knows how that could cause you to react. That's one element. Here's the bigger element that we've also ignored. Particularly since the passing of George Floyd's murder, okay, since Derek Chauvin was convicted of murder, we all know that George Floyd was murdered. Think about the social unrest that took place over the last year. And think about how all of these athletes, particularly with NBA, WNBA, NFL athletes at the forefront. We've all spoken about the fact everybody hasn't embraced that. Matter of fact, millions upon millions of people have been against that. They think that athletes should shut up and play. They think they should stay in their place. They believe that politics should have absolutely nothing to do with the world of sports. We want to be entertained and we want to go home. We know all of this. This is the first time, because of COVID, that the fans have had an opportunity to be in front of these individuals. Molly, you made the adroit point of pointing out yesterday how it seems to happen to the black athlete. It's not the white athlete that's getting spit on, that's getting popcorn thrown at them or anything like that. It's the black athlete that has suffered from this, standing up and protesting for a righteous cause on behalf of us as a society and particularly their community. There's a whole bunch of people that didn't like that, but wasn't close enough to them to react. Now there are. And that could be a reason why we're seeing some of the things that we're seeing. I want to hear y'all response to that.
I think those are two very interesting points. First, I'll say I think the league, although I'd like to know when the Knicks release a statement saying the appropriate authorities. Name the authorities. Do you mean the league? Do you mean the law? Because the league,
I would assume the law, Max.
Okay, me too. But I'd like to know explicitly. It didn't escape my attention either that this fan who spat on someone got the same punishment that Charles Oakley got for living, apparently, thrown out and arrested. But at any rate, I'll say this. When you ban a fan indefinitely, I think you've done your part. Now it's up to the legal authorities, right? And Trae Young said he didn't want to press charges. That's a menschy thing to do. Hopefully the guy's learned his lesson. Maybe Westbrook will want to press charges. But that, to me, Stephen A., is a legal issue separate and apart from the league. As I said yesterday, when you buy a ticket and enter an arena, you have not exited civilization. You are still in you're still in the United States of America. It's not some special embassy that doesn't count as part of America, some foreign embassy where the rules are somehow different. You're subject to United States law, to the laws of the state in which that arena is. So, all that stuff should be obvious, right? And if someone wants to press charges, good for them. Behave yourselves like people, please. Fans, right? You're not animals, you're people, and treat players as people also. Okay, that's one. But I want to address your point, Stephen A. I want to engage with that point. It's more interesting to me. I think that against the backdrop of what this country's experienced in recent years, sports is a great diversion. And I think the greatest consumer product is entertainment because the stakes feel real, but in fact, they're trivial. The stakes are actually trivial. If your favorite team wins or loses, right? This is not 2,000 years ago where city-states are going to war. Washington versus Philadelphia, they're actually at war. The sports represents that sort of thing. My city's better than your city. but the stakes are actually trivial. But, Stephen A., when you count in things like the protests and civil unrest along racial injustice lines, when you factor in gambling, when people actually have money on the line, now the stakes feel realer. You know why? Because they are realer. And suddenly sports goes from, wow, this is an amazing almost drug that gives you the feeling of real world stuff. But in fact, it's okay in the end. It's not going to change your life. To, actually, this might be life changing. I have money on the line here. Actually, that athlete represents a larger political struggle that is actually real to me. And his winning and that team's winning means more power to the other side. I think those are things worth considering. I'm glad you brought it up.
They're very much worth considering. And I mean, when you consider, listen, the reality is that we live in a better society than what it used to be. And on many, many occasions, when I look at white America, I always say, if you're not prejudiced, if you're not racist, if you're not somebody who engages in a level of entitlement that's incredibly alarming, that you don't mind the discrepancy and the unfairness that exists for your race of people compared to black folks and other minorities in this nation, we're not talking about you. We're not talking about you at all. But we can't ignore the fact that there's a segment of our populace that when they look at the modern day athlete, they feel you have absolutely nothing to complain about. You're getting paid the exorbitant amount of dollars that you're getting paid. We don't give a damn about your humanity. Shut the hell up and do what you're paid to do, which is entertain us, and go on about your business. And the level of animosity and vitriol that's aimed in an athlete's direction, I think, has heightened since the whole social justice movement really took on a life of its own over the last year. And then the part about gambling, well, that's simple. I mean, if you go to gamble and you feel you losing money, you can point to a tangible target as the cause for your pockets being a bit thinner than they used to be an hour earlier, 2 hours earlier, whatever. That's going to elevate your level of animosity towards that person. So I think all of those things get taken into consideration, and that's why professional sports really, really need to hunker down on fan behavior now more than ever.
I just want to add this because I said this yesterday, that it's assault for throwing something at somebody, like throwing food, and it's battery for spitting on someone. And I think you brought up two excellent points, Stephen A., with the social justice movement and with the gambling aspect, but it's still unexcusable. I mean, I don't think there's a greater sign of disrespect than spitting on someone. Right. And I understand that Trae Young didn't want to probably deal with it and press charges, and I understand that and I respect that, but almost just for the principle of it, if it was me, I absolutely would. Just to show that
if it was Russell Westbrook, he would have.
And, and we won't, you won't stand for it. Max, did you want to add anything before I go?
This is.
I bet you if they asked Russell Westbrook would have had the dude thrown in jail. I bet you if they asked Russell Westbrook, he would have wanted that.
I would just second what you said, Molly. Like, this ain't hard. Yeah. This ain't, just behave like adults. Like, you get to sporting event, you can say that this guy stinks or whatever, even when you cuss him out, if you don't make it personal. You know, as I think it was LeBron who said, there's a line. Everyone knows what the line is that you can't cross. You just wherever, like, behave like an adult. That's it when you go to an arena. And by the way, it's supposed to be family entertainment. There might be kids around. Like, use your head.
We're also assuming that people are reacting in the moment. It's entirely plausible that folks come to a game targeting a particular athlete because they don't like them. They literally bring the animosity with them. Some of them pay their tickets just to get at people that they don't like. Well, they need to get a life.
And for people who are making racially targeted kind of comments towards players' families, what? I don't even know what to say to these people.
I assure you, they don't do that in a crowd of black people. I promise you they don't do that.
They shouldn't do it
I promise you they don't do that.
Little kids know not to do these things. Grown adults don't know how to act. All right.